Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with, well, I'm already laughing. Seriously, this is what happened, all right? Let me tell you this story. I got an email a couple days ago from Jed, our piano maven and the ultimate piano person in the entire history of the universe, host of Between the Keys. I mean, the keyboard guy to end all keyboard guys. He said, I'm loving your ideal talks. Why don't you do the ideal Mozart piano concertos, the solo concertos? I said the solo concertos because I'm not interested in the double piano or the triple piano concertos. You can get a million good ones of that. There's nothing special there in my view. Anyway, and of course, 1 through 4 are not by Mozart, they're arrangements. So we're talking about the 21 concertos, 5 through 27, except 7 and 10. That's how it works out, but it'll be simple in practice. Anyway, I said to him, no, I don't want to do that. It's so much work. And he said, come on, you can do it. I've got a list. And I said, well, maybe later. And then one of you in the comments said, I have my list ready, my ideal Mozart piano concerto list. And I felt so guilty. I said, first of all, Jed had a list, and the dear commenter had a list. And I forgive me if I forgot your name. I think it was Tom had a list. Anyway, who am I not to let people display their lists, right? Especially you all, if you're interested and you're doing the work. I can't prevent you from doing the work, and I don't want to prevent you from doing the work. So I sat down and I went through all my stuff and I made my list. And we're going to do the ideal Mozart 21 piano concertos, one after another. And we're going to move through it rather quickly, I hope, because it's a lot of stuff to get through. And I did not sit here and pull out all the CDs and actually make stacks and stacks of them, because they would fall over and it's a big pile and it's a pain in the neck to take it out and put it back. I made a list. I wrote it down. It's just easier. And so I'm sure that Jed will wing in with his list where I've screwed up, and all of you will tell me what your favorite ones are. And in this case, though, I want to do it a little differently. I do not want to insist that all of your selections should be different from my selections. What I thought was interesting in speaking to Jed about it was how much consensus there were. There was. It really was very interesting. Jed and I agreed at about 2/3 of the entire list, which I think is just tremendous considering how many recordings there are. And I also decided, that I was going to borrow a couple of his, because I had some selections that he liked, he had some that I liked, and I take his word for everything when it comes to the piano. I just do. And he's never steered me wrong. Never, ever, ever. And he'll never steer you wrong. And so I'll tell you what they are. What my selections were. So just so you can see how much righter he was than I was, maybe. It's up to you, really. Anyway, but let's see how many we actually have in common. I think that would be interesting, because it's such an enormous, a large list of works with so many fine pianists playing them. It should really be interesting to see if a consensus emerges with respect to certain works. And I think that will be interesting for readers of the comments as well. So with that in mind, you ready? Number 5. Now, I picked, believe it or not, a period instrument performance. I picked Robert Levin and Hogwood on Decca. And the reason I picked Levin with Hogwood is because I think that for some of these early concertos, first of all, I think they sound good on period instruments. I think the period instrument movement brings a little extra energy and snap to the music that makes it more interesting. And second of all, I think it's only right to acknowledge the artistry of some of the really important early music keyboard people. And Robert Levin is certainly one of them. He's a superb keyboard artist. And so I chose him for number 5. Jed did not. Jed had somebody else. I forget who. But he'll tell you who it was when he gets to it, I'm sure. I think he picked Murray Pariah, but I picked Murray Pariah for a later one. We'll get to it. I don't want to get too confusing. Number 6. This was Jed's pick. I originally had Barenboim with the Berlin Philharmonic on Teldec. Do you remember that? He did 3 early Mozart concertos. He was playing and conducting. I thought it was a splendid record. I still do. But but Ashkenazi also did them. And he did these early pieces a couple of times. He did the Eighth with Kertész, which is what I originally picked. So I went with Jed's pick. Jed's pick was Ashkenazi with the Philharmonia, playing and conducting Piano Concerto No. 6. You know, Ashkenazi's Mozart concertos really are horribly underrated. They really are. I have the set. It's right there. And, oh, by the way, one of you asked to hear this thing because I sit in front of it all the time. It's really very simple. You just do this. Listen. That was just a little tap. You should hear it when it's loud. Anyway, Ashkenazi really, he's done too much, and so people take him for granted. I've said this before about him, but his Mozart concerti are lovely, and it's lovely that he has the Philharmonia instead of the usual English Chamber Orchestra or Mariner and the Academy of St. Martin in the Fields. It's a beautiful cycle, and he's very good in these early works. Like I said, he did the Eighth with Kertész. He plays them very, very stylishly and completely in proportion, with a lot of taste and elegance. So, Jed, you were right. Let's go with Ashkenazi for number 6 with the Philharmonia. Now, number 7 doesn't exist because it's the triple concerto. Go find a triple concerto and knock yourself out. Number 7. That was number 7, right? The triple concerto. Number 8, I originally had Ashkenazi with Kertész, but Jed suggested that instead Wilhelm Kempff with Ferdinand Leitner. And since I didn't have Kempff anywhere else, I thought, and he didn't really, he was a Beethoven guy, right? He didn't do so much Mozart. So I figured, let's have a Kempff. I think Jed picked another good one there. And it's a beautiful performance. I enjoy it very much, and you will too. So let's go with Kempff and Leitner in number 8. Now, number 9, we're going to not do some old person. For number 9, I picked Life Ove Ansnes on EMI or Warner, whatever it's called now, with the Norwegian Chamber Orchestra. He plays and conducts. Very, very stylish, very, very beautiful performance. Jed reviewed it and gave it a 10. So there you go. And so I think I was justified in selecting that one because I read classicstoday.com reviews, folks, and you should too. They're very helpful in bringing to mind all of the recordings that have been covered over the past 30 years or so on what's out there and how we rated them. And I try not to contradict myself so much. But this is a great number 9, the Jeune Homme Concerto, which is it's such a precocious work in Mozart's output. It's just fantastic. So that's that one. Number 10, that's the double concerto. We don't care. Number 11, I picked Malcolm Bilson with John Eliot Gardner. They did the entire cycle. They are of their type of the period instrument performances, probably the best cycle out there on period instruments. And Bilson is a fine artist. He's got a good sounding instrument. Gardner is an excellent accompanist. Say what you will about him independently. He's a fine accompanist. He provides very stylish, disciplined accompaniments. And I think it's a beautiful performance. And for those of you who are interested in the historically informed performance movement, then the Gardner-Bilson cycle is a good cycle to listen to and a very, very fine way to sort of get into that aspect of Mozart's music with respect to the concerti. So that was that one. Number 12. Number 12. I chose Christian Zacharias with Jerzy Maksymyuk and the Polish Chamber Orchestra for a couple of reasons. Zacharias did 2 cycles. There's one on MD&G, his later one, and this is his first one. It's on Warner or on EMI, and I think it's much better because it has conductors. It has several conductors, actually. He recorded them all over the place. And I wanted to have an Eastern European contribution in the orchestral playing because, Polish orchestras, especially their string sections, are really, really good. And there's some really beautiful accompanying going on in this concerto. And Zacharias is just wonderful. He's a wonderful pianist, especially in this earlier cycle when I think he's a little younger and fresher. For number 13, that's where I had Murray Pariah, who I think did a very, very good cycle with the English Chamber Orchestra. It's on Sony. And 13, it's one of that early maturity of Mozart that I think I think that Pariah does particularly well. I really do. I think he has a tremendous sense of style, and he gives it the music just enough extra oomph, to make us hear the mature composer who is emerging, and it's wonderful. It's a wonderful performance. Number 14, Rudolf Serkin with Alexander Schneider. I love Rudolf Serkin and Mozart, at least before his Deutsche Grammophon recordings when he was very old and sort of going to pieces. But his Sony recordings are largely splendid, and there are a lot of them I could have chosen, and you know what they are, right? I mean, there's like 19 with Zell, there's 27 with Ormandy, there's great stuff with Rudolf Serkin. But again, I picked one of the earlier ones because I think it's wonderful hearing these major artists play some of the earlier, slighter works and showing us how much great music they contain, don't you think? 15. Oh, God, I love 15. Did you ever notice how the finale of 15 has sort of the same finale as the finale of 22? They're both hunting tunes. 15 is da-dum ba-da-da-da-da ba-bum ba-dum ba-da-da-da-da-da-dum, and 22 is da-dum ba-dum ba-da-dum ba-dum ba-dum ba-da-dum. I like to listen to them one after the other. They're kind of interesting. I think 15 is the better work, by the way. I really do. It's such a sly, witty, wonderful, wonderful piece of music. And the opening movement is delicious. It has that great tune. Dun, 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 dun. Well, I could sing the whole damn concerto, and wouldn't it make you happy? Anyway, so for 15, who am I talking about here? I don't even remember. Oh, yeah, Robert Casadei-Su and Zell. As much for Zell as for Casadei-Su. What a terrific partnership they make. Jed had told me that he has a soft spot for the Bernstein Vienna Philharmonic one where Bernstein plays and conducts, and I do too. I love that performance, and I could have put it there. I could have put it in there. Bernstein's Mozart was really good, actually. He did 17 as well, but he's not in here. I leave him to you if you want to bring him up, or Jed can add him to the list. Number 16, Peter Serkin, following in Papa's footsteps. Peter Serkin with Alexander Schneider on RCA. Beautiful performances. Serkin did a whole bunch of them up to number 19, and they are extraordinary Mozart concerto performances, absolutely first rate, and they've been recently inexpensively reissued. I mean, there's a big Peter Serkin box and there's a Peter Serkin Does Mozart box, so you can take your pick, but Peter Serkin Does Mozart is very, very special, and his concerto performances were just great. They were revelatory when they came out. Everybody has loved them ever since, and we still do. So that was 16. Number 17, that's Andras Schiff and Sándor Vég. Again, as much as for Vég as for Schiff. Some of you find Schiff to be a completely faceless pianist in Mozart. I disagree. I prefer to call him subtle. And I think that's, and I don't say that sarcastically. I think he's a very, very sensitive pianist. His playing is small scale. It's his view of Mozart's scale. I mean, the kind of sound that's appropriate to Mozart. And you may not all like it, but in this concerto particularly, it's just wonderful. There is this fabulous chamber music-like interplay between the piano and the orchestra, and Vég is absolutely fabulous. I mean, the Decca box of concertos is my favorite set of all the concertos, even though some violently disagree because of Schiff, but I think it's just an amazing partnership. It's a true partnership, and that performance, it's nowhere more exciting than in number 17. Number 18, Geza Anda. Now, this was released separately, aside from the box, on Eloquence. He's playing and conducting the Mozarteum Orchestra of Salzburg. This was the first complete set of Mozart concertos by one pianist. It was variable. The orchestra in those days was a little scruffy. They could be good, they could be bad, but he was wonderful in number 18. It's really one of the best, one of the handful of fabulous performances in that cycle. So, Geza Anda. And on Deutsche Grammophon or on Eloquence, if you want to just get that one performance, it's coupled with something else. I don't have it with me, so I don't remember which. It's sitting over there somewhere. Okay, 19. Here's one that was kind of an obvious pick. Clara Haskell with Ferenc Fricsay. Again, you take a couple of crazy Hungarians, throw them in a room. Magic happens. It's amazing. I'm assuming Haskell was Hungarian. I think she was. Anyway, well, Annie Fisher wasn't. She's coming up. But that is an amazing performance. Absolutely amazing. Two Mozartians to the manner born. And that's all you need to say about it. Haskell, of course, did two great recordings with Markevich as well. You want to repeat. You really do, don't you, folks? You want to repeat. But I said I wouldn't, and I'm not going to. And I know these performances will show up in your lists. And so I'm really quite happy about that. I'll be very happy to see them. I assure you. Number 20 in D minor, the Sturm und Drang D minor that becomes an opera buffa festival work in the last movement, Brendel and Macaris. Alfred Brendel, of course, was a great Mozart player. He did all the concertos with Mariner, but toward the end of his playing career, he started doing them again with Charles Macaris, and they have just that much more personality. I mean, they really do. They're wonderful performances. And Macaris, I think, makes the difference. He makes the difference with Brendel, who plays with Mariner. He could be a little precious, maybe a little brittle sounding. I mean, he was always a little brittle sounding, but here with Macaris providing much beefier and more energetic accompaniments, I think Brendel really comes to life and does his very, very best. It is a great concerto number 20 in D minor. So that's Brendel and Macaris. Number 21, Annie Fisher. There she is. And Wolfgang Sawallisch on EMI Warner. I love this performance. One of the things about number 21, the Elvira Madigan, the slow movement that everybody plays, is that it can be played with too much preciosity. Is that the word? Preciosity? I don't know. Preciosity, it has this sort of china porcelain-like quality that kind of annoys me. But you don't get that with Annie Fisher. You don't get that at all. Her playing is always purposeful, strongly linear. Sawallisch is a terrific accompanist. It's with the accompanist. It's with the Philharmonia, in vintage shape. I mean, I think it's a mono recording. I have to go and look, but I'm pretty sure. And it's just a marvelous performance. A beautiful, soulful, intelligent, expressive performance of a piece that gets played way too often. And way too often, it's easy to do in a facile and kind of, because the slow movement is so beautiful, you don't pay attention to anything else. But these players do. And Annie Fisher really does. She never let anything slip. Never, ever. All right. 22, Rudolf Buchbinder on Hensler, or Profil, or whichever one it was. I think it's Profil. Oh my, what a wonderful cycle that is, the Buchbinder Vienna Symphony cycle. He plays, he conducts, and he's just great in 22. For some reason, it has that real Viennese schwung, it schwungs, it moves and sings, and it has rhythm and projection, especially in that hunting finale. Absolutely gorgeous. Gorgeous! Number 23. 23, for my money, the best one out there. Well, the best one. One of the best one that's out there is Ivan Moravec with Mariner. This was originally on Hensler. It was licensed a bunch of different ways, but I just keep it on Hensler to keep my sanity. Really, really a fine performance. Moravec, he did 4 Mozart concertos with Mariner, and they're all amazing. He did them all for Hensler. Fabulous performances. And, 23 is another one of those concertos that everybody does. It's so popular, and so it gets taken for granted. But with Moravec, again, you have an artist who took nothing for granted. He worked his butt off playing anything, everything that he touched. And it's pure magic, this performance. It really is. Did you ever notice the second subject of the first movement of number 23? It's the old Heineken commercial. Remember the Heineken commercial? Whenever I see that windmill turning against a Harlem sky so clear, suddenly I get a tremendous yearning for that special taste of Heineken beer. Well, that's the tune. Do 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 do. You know what I mean, right? Okay, 24. In C minor, the creepy C minor concerto, the one that everybody copied, like Beethoven and people like that, the C minor concerto, Uchida and Jeffrey Tate I think Uchida had a special feeling for this work. I really do. She plays it with a tremendous sense of sort of creepy intensity. And Tate is a wonderful Mozart accompanist, a wonderful Mozart conductor generally. We talked about his set of the Mozart symphonies, which is excellent. His accompaniments for Uchida are just fabulous, and they play it so well. Again, it's another wonderful partnership with real give and take, character in the orchestral parts, and an amazing sense of style and phrasing and suppleness in the solo part. And that last movement, that coda, that wispy, chill Arctic wind coda, the do 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 do. Oh, it's wonderful. It'll make the hair on the back of your neck stand up. 25, Fleischer-Zell. Gotta be Fleischer-Zell, right? Well, doesn't have to be. There are other great 25s. Moravec did the 25 with Mariner. That could have been in there too. And I'm sure Jed has his own vote for number 25. But I think Fleischer and Zell is really almost stands alone in terms of its sovereign command of the music. And the interesting thing is that 25 is one of the really great Mozart concertos. If you read Sir Donald Francis Tovey, he did an analysis of the work, which you really ought to take a look at, because it's wonderful to read. It's a great concerto that no one pays attention to, and the reason people don't pay attention to it, Tovey put his finger right on it, is because thematically it consists of formulas, the common coin of classical period style. It's a heroic concerto. It has trumpets and drums, so it's a military concerto, that military style that would reach its apotheosis in Beethoven's Emperor Concerto. But the themes are not distinctive. What's distinctive is how they develop. It's what Mozart does with them, and the form, how he handles the form, especially in the first movement. You really have to pay attention to number 25. And so this Zell and Fleischer recording is not only intellectually, it has such grasp of what the music is, such grip. And because it has that grasp, it makes the music intensely expressive. It's a wonderfully concentrated and probing performance that really rewards your attention. You've got to pay attention to it. It's just great. Number 26. This is the Coronation Concerto. I can't stand the Coronation Concerto. Oh, I think it's so boring. I can't help it, guys. I don't like it at all. And, it has a reputation because it's the least finished of Mozart's mature piano concerto solo parts. So there's a tremendous amount of encouragement for the soloist to ornament and play with it and add stuff and duke around with it. And, for me, it just sits there. It really does. But there is one performance that really captures my attention and that makes me enjoy it and even love it and listen to it. And that's Thomas Vasari. Thomas Vasari with the Berlin Philharmonic, playing and conducting. It is one of his finest recordings. It's on Deutsche Grammophon. It's something he made it wholly his own. He doesn't over-ornament the solo part. He really doesn't. He leaves it mostly as Mozart wrote it, but the entire conception is really his. It's a beautiful, beautifully shaped, intelligently phrased, wonderful, wonderful performance of number 26, a work I don't particularly care for. And so that's why I picked that one, Thomas Vasari. And finally, folks, number 27, The End of the Road. Aren't you proud of how quickly we've gotten through this? I mean, it helps not to have piles of CDs sitting next to you, to just have a list in front of you, doesn't it? It allows us to get through this with a little bit more perspicacity, I think. 27, Richard Good with the Orpheus Chamber Orchestra on Nonsuch. Oh, what a great performance that is. Holy cow. The trouble with 27 is that it has a reputation for being a bit elegiac, to be a little bit sort of soft and wistful, and it's quasi-romantic music. It really is. But you can play it with kid gloves, with too much, almost, again, preciosity, whatever you call that, too much, faux sensitivity. That's what happens, I think, in Christian Zacharias's MD&G recording. It's very pretty. You can make it very beautiful, but there still has to be rhythm and muscle and always a degree in Mozart of passion. It doesn't always come to the surface, but it's got to be there. You know what I mean? And Good realizes that element of the music, I think, perfectly. I really do. Partly he does it with just a tremendously acute sense of rhythm and really smart phrasing. And he has the Orpheus Chamber Orchestra, which of course doesn't have a conductor, but which has a collective personality. And the two of them play off of each other just splendidly, and they're very, very well recorded. It's a glorious recording of number 27. And with that, we have covered 21 Mozart piano concertos with 21 pianists, my ideal list. And I am so interested in seeing what yours is and the extent to which you agree or disagree with mine and with some of the other people who will doubtless chime in. But you've got plenty of Mozart piano concertos to choose from, don't we? Don't you? Isn't it marvelous? Isn't it just incredible when you think about it? When you go through and look at the discography of these works and you realize just how much musicianship and talent and intelligence and profundity has been poured into them over just the past few decades, the past 40, 50 years, leaving this absolutely incredible legacy for us to enjoy. It's so heartening. It just makes you feel good. It really should. There's so much greatness out there. Sheer, unabashed greatness. And it's such a reason for hope and optimism about our artistic future. And, I just, it makes me feel all warm and snuggly inside. And I hope it does for you too. It makes me want to keep on listening forever. And I hope you do too. So thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.